This is the woman people are calling the real-life Gone Girl. She faked her own horrific abduction and wasted 5 years of police time. This case is insane. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Meg. On this channel, we got true crime, paranormal, mysteries, histories, a little bit of everything. So if that interests you, make sure you press the subscribe button. Right, let's get into this insane case. On the 2nd of November, 2016, Keith Papini comes home expecting to see his 34-year-old wife, Sherri Papini, and his 2 kids. But the house was empty. So Keith decided to call the daycare and ask them what time Sherri came to pick up their kids. This is when he heard something that made his stomach drop. Sherri never went to pick up the kids. They were still there. I can imagine that Keith's brain was going through a million different possible scenarios, but my wife is about to become one of the biggest fraud cases in America was probably not one of them. He immediately called the police and reported her missing because this was very abnormal behavior. Sherri seemed to have disappeared into thin air. It wasn't long before Sherri's missing poster was all over California. Volunteers joined the search for her. There were helicopters flying overhead, and eventually the FBI got involved. But the police didn't have much to go off of. That morning, Sherri had gone for a jog, something she normally did, and investigators found her phone and earbuds on the side of the road as if she had been taken. They were taking this very seriously. There were no witnesses, there was no CCTV, no obvious signs of a struggle. Are you kidding? This is Winnie. Say hi. Say bye. And as they do with a lot of these cases, they had to look at the people closest to her, like her husband, Keith. That is standard practice in a missing persons case, except the media. Everyone started suspecting Keith. Imagine your wife disappeared out of thin air and suddenly everybody thinks you did it. But then everything changed. On the 24th of November, Thanksgiving morning, just 22 days after Sherri had gone missing, a driver traveling on Interstate 5 noticed a woman walking on the side of the road. This was about 150 miles from where Sherri had originally gone missing. This woman had chains around her. She was covered in bruises. Her hair had been hacked off. She was very dirty. This woman was Sherri Papini. Oscar-worthy commitment to the bit, Sherri. The driver immediately calls 911. Officers arrived and they're horrified at the state of her. What happened to her? She wasn't just bruised, she had lost about 15 pounds and she was covered in cuts. And on top of that, she was branded. Branded. Look at that. Looking at her, investigators believed that she had been through something horrific. And when detectives interviewed her, she had quite a story. She claimed that she had been kidnapped by 2 Hispanic women. She said that they kept her chained up, abused her, and their plan was to sell her to a man. She described these women in such great detail that they were able to create a composite sketch of what they looked like. They're not even real people, by the way. Because this was so horrifying, police threw a bunch of money into trying to figure out who these people were. And the community, they riled around Sherri. Who could have done this to this poor mom of 2? The government helped pay for her therapy for her PTSD after the incident. There was one detail that detectives really struggled to get. Why would these people go through such effort to kidnap Sherri in such a seemingly perfect way just to let her go? That part just didn't make sense. Investigators got a slight lead when they found DNA on the clothing that Sherri was wearing, but unfortunately there were no matches in the system at the time for this person. From 2016 to 2020, there were no leads. That's when investigators decided to try something different. Genetic genealogy has been used to solve a lot of cold cases, so they thought they would run the male DNA through one of these genealogy programs, and they did indeed end up finding a match. The DNA belonged to a man called James Reyes. He was Sherri's ex-boyfriend from 2002. A massive break in the case. Police headed to James's home expecting this to be a classic kidnapping case. Oh, they found the guy. Instead, they got one of the biggest plot twists imaginable. After being interviewed for about an hour, James finally confessed, but not to kidnapping Sherri, but helping her. He told investigators that Sherri had contacted him back in 2016 asking for his help. She was claiming that her husband Keith was being abusive and that she needed help disappearing. He believed her and he agreed to help. She instructed him to rent a car, and so he did, and he went to pick her up. He took Sherri to his apartment where he gave her his bed and he slept on the couch. He claimed that for the 22 days that she was missing, she hardly ever left the house. She was apparently obsessed with the news coverage of her disappearance, that she would just sit in the dark and watch it. He said that she was purposely injuring herself, causing bruising and cuts. She cut her own hair, she lost a bunch of weight, and eventually she asked James to brand her back. He told police that he didn't want to do this, but she insisted that it was all part of this big plan to escape, I guess. He didn't know what she was trying to achieve. What he did believe is that he was helping a woman escape an abusive situation, so he helped brand her back. Then on Thanksgiving morning, she apparently just changed her mind. She told James that she was missing her children and that she wanted to go home. She wanted to be dropped off in the middle of a random road, so he did that. James's story sounded pretty unbelievable to the police until they realized that it matched the evidence almost perfectly. The phone records matched, the car rental date matched, DNA matched, and the cherry on top was that his room that she stayed in was a room that she described she was kept in, minus the boarded up windows and chains. Police then decided, okay, we need to bring Sherri and Keith back in for an interview. And they laid it all on the table. They said, Sherri, what the fuck? They didn't actually say that, but they did lay it all on the table. All the evidence that they had against her.
The reason why you can describe the room is because you stayed in the room in the dark for hours, for days on end. The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm was because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you. I know all of those things. I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test. That said, it's not an abduction. She asked me to come get her.
No.
I rented a car.
No.
I drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherri.
If that's not what happened, what did happen, Sherri?
I don't know. No, there's no way. It's James. There's no way. There's no way.
The DNA doesn't lie.
His DNA
His
is...
DNA was on you.
There's no way.
Robert saw you in the house while you were down there. While everything
Who's
spun out
Robert?
of control. His cousin.
You even collected blonde hairs from the room.
There was nowhere left to run for Sherri at this point, so she did eventually admit that she was lying, that the entire kidnapping had been a lie. But there's one question that nobody knows the answer to, except for Sherri. Why? Why?
Why? Why? Why? Why?
Even today, no one really has a clear explanation. Some people think for attention, but that's kind of a psychotic way of getting attention.
I think she wanted me to be her knight in shining armor and run to her, and I think that she wanted to plan a fake kidnapping, but in her version, I was supposed to find her.
In April 2022, she pleaded guilty for a hell of a lot, including fraud, collecting victim compensation money, making false statements to federal investigators. Later that year, she was sentenced to 18 months in a federal prison, but in reality, she only served 10 months and she got out in 2023. Yes, everyone, she is amongst us. She was also ordered to repay $300,000 for the costs of her investigation. On the day of her sentencing, Keith filed for divorce. He has since spoken about the heartbreak around this case, not only how it felt to have his wife go missing, but to find out that it was all a lie. Think about it, from 2016 to 2020, he was comforting his wife on this intense trauma she had suffered, and it was all a lie. Not only that, but the fingers pointed at him when she went missing. Oh my God. And she has kids. She has kids. After leaving prison, Sherri did claim that she was in fact kidnapped She's claimed that some of the original details were true and that, in fact, James Race, her ex-boyfriend, abused her when she went to stay with him. James has strongly denied those allegations, but to this day, this is one of America's most famous fake kidnapping cases, probably ever. What do you think would motivate someone to do this? This is what I want to know. Let me know in the comments because I can't wrap my head around it. But yeah, that is the famous case of Sherri Papini. If you want out of your marriage, just divorce them. You don't need to do all of this, okay? And if you want attention, there are many other ways of doing it that don't get the FBI involved, okay? Good. I've established a posting schedule so you guys can expect videos from me Thursdays and Sundays at 4 p.m. I really hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!